Vladimir Putin called Russia's nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile, the Satan II, a unique weapon that would deter potential aggressors when it was tested in 2022. He stated the missile had no global competitors and the best tactical and technological features. In 2024, the Satan II's single distinguishing characteristic is its ability to self-destruct before leaving the test launch pad, raising the issue of whether even the missile has had enough of Putin's leadership. The failed test sent shockwaves, but not throughout the world as Putin wanted, but directly into his regime's outrageous rhetoric. How did this tremendous weapon of mass shaming fail so spectacularly? Given the Kremlin's obsession with concealing catastrophes, how do we know? This video has all the answers. Country collapses as Russia tests nuclear. Russia is struggling internally, so why is it testing nuclear missiles? As Ukraine advances into the Kursk region, often likened to David defeating Goliath, Russia faces daily humiliation after 2.5 years of conflict. Putin's government resorts to desperate displays, like a staged nuclear test, to intimidate and save face. Once the world's second strongest military, Russia has been humiliated in Ukraine. Its soldiers are falling rapidly, superior tanks are destroyed by Bradley vehicles, and its Black Sea Fleet is shattered by a nation without a navy. Putin's last card is his nuclear arsenal. In February 2023, Putin announced Russia's withdrawal from the New START Treaty, the last nuclear arms control agreement with the U.S., which had limited nuclear warheads for both nations. Claiming the U.S. was testing nuclear weapons, Putin proposed restarting Russian tests. While the U.S. tested a Minuteman III ICBM in September 2023, launching at 4,200 miles to the Kwajalein Atoll, Russia's attempts to match this success have been more rhetoric than reality. Russian Strategic Missile Forces Commander Sergei Karakayev announced 7 ICBM tests for 2024, but these efforts have so far only added to Russia's embarrassment. Despite attempts to project strength, the Kremlin's nuclear narrative increasingly highlights its struggles on the world stage. Nuclear threats and Kremlin. In June 2024, Putin held a rare press conference with senior editors of global media, where he justified and threatened nuclear war, referencing Russia's policy to use any means if its sovereignty or territorial integrity is threatened. His tone was notably less confident compared to his bold claims in September 2022, likely reflecting a reality check or repeated bluffs that have eroded his credibility. Ukraine's advances, despite Putin's many red line warnings, now seemingly at least 100, further expose the hollow nature of his threats. Meanwhile, Dmitry Medvedev, Deputy Secretary of Russia's Security Council, escalated the rhetoric. In September 2024, he threatened to turn Kyiv into a molten gray mass on Telegram, mixing apocalyptic language with insults toward the West. His rants, while occasionally sensible, were dismissed by the U.S. State Department as not worth taking seriously. Adding to the theater, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned the West that Moscow's nuclear arsenal was ready, framing it as a deterrent. Days before the failed launch of the Satan II missile, Lavrov's dramatic statements aimed to instill fear, but only added irony to Russia's growing string of humiliations. The Kremlin's nuclear threats have become increasingly performative, failing to intimidate as intended. Satan's failure too, and shameful experiments. On September 9, 2024, Russia attempted to launch its RS-28 Sarmat ICBM, known as Satan II, from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome in Arkhangelsk. Pavel Podvig, an analyst of Russian nuclear forces, deduced the launch date after a notum issued on September 17, advising pilots of hazards, was abruptly revoked on September 19. Plesetsk, a key military and satellite launch site, served as the stage for what turned into a major failure. The RS-28 Sarmat, introduced in 2018, is a 3-stage, silo-based, liquid-fueled missile designed to replace the Soviet-era R-36M, Satan. With a launch weight of 46,000 pounds and a length of 115.8 feet, The missile boasts an 11,000-mile range, theoretically capable of striking targets across the U.S. and Europe. It can carry a payload of up to 10 tons, including hypersonic glide vehicles, multiple warheads, and nuclear weapons, making it a critical piece of Russia's strategic arsenal. Despite these specifications, the September test was a catastrophic failure. Reports suggest the missile exploded during refueling, creating a large crater and destroying the launch site. Open-source analyst atmanmirc1 via X confirmed the explosion, which left the missile grounded and exposed significant flaws in the program. Although the Satan II is nuclear capable, it wasn't armed with warheads during the test. The failure, involving a new missile fresh off the assembly line, underscores the challenges facing Russia's military and its ability to project power effectively. Test failure, consequences, and worldwide reactions. The failed September 2024 test of the RS-28 Sarmat Satan II missile highlights a pattern of repeated failures, despite Russia's claims of its strategic power. Dummy warheads were used for data collection, but evidence suggests the missile never left the ground. Timothy Wright from the International Institute for Strategic Studies concluded that a catastrophic failure in the first stage likely caused it to fall back into the silo and explode, demolishing the site. Additionally, the absence of NATO's Cobra Ball reconnaissance aircraft, which monitors missile launches, confirms the missile didn't launch. Satellite imagery from Planet Labs, analyzed by open-source intelligence experts like atmanmirc1, revealed the aftermath: a 200-foot wide crater and extensive destruction at the Plesetsk Cosmodrome. Comparisons with earlier images confirm the devastation, with the once intact site reduced to ruins. This failure is the latest in a series of setbacks. After the Sarmat's sole successful test in April 2022, subsequent attempts failed, including notable incidents in February, October, and November 2023. These failures stemmed from issues such as control system errors, telemetry problems, and human error. Despite its poor record, the Sarmat was declared operational on paper in September 2023. The Kremlin has been tight-lipped, with spokesperson Dmitry Peskov denying knowledge of the explosion and the Ministry of Defense remaining silent. Experts like Tom Karako from the Center for Strategic and International Studies view the Sarmat program as nuclear saber-rattling, noting its failures cast doubt on Russia's ability to back its threats with functional technology. While touted as the world's longest-range and most powerful ICBM, the Sarmat increasingly appears to be more propaganda than a practical military asset. Consistent Russian strategic weapons program failures. Worse, Russia has had many failed nuclear weapon tests, including Sarmat. Russia tested Poseidon, officially the Status 6 oceanic multipurpose system, on June 30, 2023. Putin named this one of 6 strategic weapons in 2018, together with the RS-28 Sarmat. Underwater nuclear-capable torpedo Poseidon targets coastal areas, ships, and naval bases. This torpedo sank after being thrown from the silo in June. A defective sensor prohibited the reactor from starting. Strangely, this debacle seems to have unsettled Russia, as the next launch, scheduled for late October or early November, was postponed, and no more testing has been recorded. Another disastrous test occurred on October 25, 2023, when Putin was intended to oversee presidential launches. The Kremlin said everything went smoothly, but Serena stated that the RS-24 Yars missile crashed during its second phase, and the RSM-56 Bulava missile was canceled at the last minute. The former is a thermonuclear-armed intercontinental ballistic missile with a 65-25-mile range and several individually targetable re-entry vehicles. This submarine-launched ballistic missile is for Russia's Burai-class nuclear submarines. This missile can carry numerous warheads and travel 5,150 kilometers. Putin's nuclear policy and NATO tensions. How does the Russian president view his launches and the other failures in the video? Putin's business as usual. threats, propaganda, and clever deflection. Now, he's determined to stop the UK from letting Ukraine utilize Storm Shadow long-range missiles against Russia. He failed to do the same with the US, which gave Ukraine longer-range ATACMS and Army Tactical Missile System missiles and empowered its forces to strike Russia. Putin warned the West again on September 25th, days after the devastating nuclear missile explosion on the same soil. Putin told Russia's Security Council that the Kremlin was rewriting its nuclear doctrine to address a swiftly changing global scene with new challenges and risks. A key feature of this new doctrine is that any non-nuclear state aggression against Russia, especially if supported by a nuclear power, is considered a joint strike. This broadens perceived threats and increases nuclear engagement. Putin listed specific situations under which Russia might deploy nuclear weapons, such as a large-scale missile, airplane, or drone attack. He stressed that Russia or Belarus may utilize nuclear weapons if faced with conventional assault. These words signal a shift in Moscow's nuclear stance, allowing for a broader understanding of when nuclear weapons are needed. Putin will defend his increasingly hostile approach with mental gymnastics. Putin gave a masterful diversion press conference days before the latest Sarmat missile catastrophe. He explained why using Western-supplied long-range weaponry against Russian territory was too much with a straight face. In Putin's world, the Ukrainian army needs NATO's help to use high-tech weapons. His classic allegation that only NATO military officers may assign aircraft missions implied that these long-range missiles were only utilized in Ukraine by NATO. Putin said NATO intervention would be a declaration of war against Russia. He claimed that using long-range weaponry would require direct involvement. Putin calls for NATO's direct engagement in the Ukraine war. He said this would indicate NATO, the US, and Europe are at war with Russia. If this is true, we will respond to threats appropriately given the shift in the conflict's nature. This whole statement is a thinly veiled attempt to shelter himself from escalating military failures on the ground. If his missiles are exploding in his garden, he doesn't want everyone to think he can't handle Western help. What do you think of Putin's statements that Ukraine can employ Western weapons without NATO help? Does he have any valid concerns? To return to the video, what does the Sarmat missile failure say about Russia's military and how it will alter its nuclear strategy? Finally, and maybe most importantly, how much humiliation can a president endure before changing careers? Comment your guesses below. Thanks for watching our video. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye, and see you.